This is your favorite teacher, Miss Michael. We're going to talk about evidence of evolution. I'm sure all of you know about Charles Darwin. This document is, by the way, is posted on the e-class page for today's lesson. When Charles Darwin first proposed the idea that all new species descend from an ancestor, he performed an exhaustive amount of research to provide as much evidence as possible. Today, the major pieces of evidence for this theory can be broken down into 4 categories. You have the fossil record, embryology, comparative anatomy, and molecular biology. You want to go ahead and write those things down. Fossil record, embryology, comparative anatomy, and molecular biology. This little video clip is just going to review some activities for you to see how the fossil record was used to come up with theories of evolution. If you look at the chart, you can see that it is showing a series of skulls, front leg fossils of organisms believed to be ancestors of the modern day horse. Okay, so if we look at the dawn horse, and by the way, I believe these are Latin names, don't want to butcher them, but the dawn horse, Eohippus, is showing that there's the skull is a similar shape to the modern horse, but it's much smaller. Comparatively, if we look at the limbs, the front legs, we can see that in the dawn horse, or the Eohippus, there are many small bones that make up those particular front legs. And so that's majorly different as well. You can also see that the length is substantially shorter than the modern horse. If we look at the Mesohippus, we see more of a solid, thicker bone here in the middle, and less smaller bones, as well as the size increasing. Note that the skull is probably, it's changed a little bit more, but it has that relative same shape. As we progress to the Merychippus, you can see that the skull and the front legs are beginning to look more similar to the modern horse. Okay, we have some things that are more pronounced. The skull is larger. Again, it's the same shape. We still have those smaller bones in the front leg as compared to the dawn horse and the Mesohippus. We first see more of a change in the Pilohippus, in the legs as well as the skull. If we're comparing this to the modern horse, this one is the most like the Equus, the Pilohippus. All those smaller bones have kind of gone away, or they've gotten larger here and created more of that hoof shape. So for number 1, it asks you to give 2 similarities between each of the skulls that might lead to the conclusion that these are all related species. I would have to, if we look at the fossil record, 2 similarities between each of the skulls. So I think I already mentioned that, whoa, sorry folks, the general shape of the skull is fundamentally the same. Is fundamentally the same. Okay, if we look at the shape, it's fundamentally the same. Now that would be one similarity. Another similarity would be that the skulls also indicate that these animals didn't walk upright. on 2 legs. They all walked on 4 legs. Okay. And you can tell that because this is the area where in the cranium where you can see the spine was attached here. The spine was all attached, which is different in a human, and we'll go into more detail when we get to our second unit in evolution. But you can see the spine is going to be attached to the back of the skull in this area instead of at the bottom. Now, I'm sure that you could come up with some other differences, or excuse me, some other similarities. You feel free to write those down. You can add to what we've written here. For number 2, what is the biggest change in skull anatomy that occurred from the dawn horse to the modern horse? You could say that size is a major change. I mean, that's the most notable. You can see that side, that the dawn horse is significantly smaller than the modern horse. You might also note that the number of bones in the front legs have decreased in, I already said that, decreased over time. You could add that as a major. If you have any others, feel free to add that as well. So what is the biggest change in the leg anatomy from the dawn horse to the modern horse? You could also add that the number of bones. It's a little bit of a shortcut, but the number of bones in the front legs have decreased over time. You could also mention the size of the bones have decreased over time, because that, I mean, that's visually, that's showing you a difference. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time to get those answers written. These are going to become important as we move through this unit. You will have a Google form to make sure that you are following along with this lesson. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time to write down about the fossil record and how it is evidence of theories of evolution.